All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. Let's have that conversation, and I'd like to hear your views as well. And Trevor Mbija to Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. We're talking about the University of Nairobi and the cash crunch that's going on there, and the best way forward. There are reforms that are ongoing. The VC says these reforms will help the university stay afloat, otherwise it will crumble down. But the way around those reforms is where the main concern has always been. Dr. Richard Bosire is here, chairperson, WASU, that's the University's Academic Staff Union. Anthony Manyara is also here, President, Kenya University Students Organization, KUSO. Eddie Mwendwa is also here, President, UNSA, that's the University of Nairobi Students Association. They have called for a strike should these fees remain the way it is, even though it's not affecting them. We'll find out from them what the reasoning behind that is. Peter Waita, Deputy Secretary, KUSU, that's the Kenya University Staff Union, Nairobi branch, is also here. Thank you for making time. And Dr. Bosire, I'll start with you. What are your main concerns when it comes to these reforms that were announced by the university?
Thank you, Trevor. The main concerns as members of staff, academic staff, is that the reforms have been made without consultation. They have been made without participation of stakeholders. And we are key stakeholders as unions, and we have not been engaged at all. Yeah. The process of public participation is a constitutional requirement by those who bear responsibility to amend or to do such reforms, which means that the VC is the one who is supposed to have engaged, or the council should have engaged stakeholders at the formulation stage, and also at the point where the report now has been produced, and the report should be subjected to public participation so that the members of staff could now own it and have smooth implementation. Yeah. The architecture of our constitution, as it is today, 2010 constitution, requires public participation and inclusiveness in decision making. Yeah. And this is part of fundamental policy changes that the university is making that must have been subjected to public participation, to students who are stakeholders, to unions as stakeholders, and even to individual members of the university. Yeah. The second point that we are really concerned about is the secrecy, I would say the secrecy, with which that this process has been handled. Nobody knows what is happening. Suddenly, we are told it's tabled in Senate on a Wednesday. The following day, on a Thursday, is implementation, a launching of implementation of the program. It is really, there is a problem of disclosure. Yeah. It's these things are done in secrecy. It means there is an ulterior motive, yeah, that is intended. And Trevor, I can say without fear of contradiction that unions have seen an ulterior motive in this process. Yeah. It could have good things perhaps, but essentially there are things that are hidden. Yeah. You cannot, for instance, scrub offices that are covered by the law without first amending the law. The law gives us the way to appoint principals and DVCs. Now you scrap the DVC's position, and the people now kind of replacing them, you introduce a new name for them, which is not covered in the law. And the process of appointment, you make it that the VC or the council just appoints. Yeah. It's a travesty and, in fact, a violation of the law.
Dr. Bosire, I find this confusing because the VC was sitting right where you're sitting, and he said that there were wide consultations. The council was involved, the Senate was involved. Was he lying?
You know, Trevor, the university operates in a very interesting way, yeah, but it is a public institution like any other. Senate is composed fundamentally of appointees of the university administration. And I would say that the Senate was actually ratifying something they had not seen. This is something that the VC projected on the screen, yeah, without prior. I represented the Senate in the past from the Faculty of Arts. Yeah. What we used to do during Magoha's time and other administrations, yeah, is to get documents either prior to the meeting, to the Senate meeting, or if the documents are tabled in the Senate so
Yeah.
that people can interrogate the document and have that process go on in an effective manner.
Okay.
This is something projected, and you are told this is what it is, this is what we're going to do. And I think it was choreographed in a sense that the VC had his friends applauding the document, and those who raised critical issues that now we are raising were not given a chance. Or they spoke and they said, we shall incorporate. The next thing, implementation. He said also that he had involved unions. We have not met the VC, either prior or even now, except that he is claiming that he met unions on Monday. He did not meet unions. Were they consultations regarding the discussion of the document,
Yeah.
or informing, you know, he met some people and say, inform them what he wants to do. That is not governance. Governance requires an input that makes meaning as into the document and into the processes.
All right. Waita, what are your concerns?
Well, thank you, Trevor. I want to echo what my colleague has said. There was no public participation as they were doing these reforms.
Yeah.
I remember the VC talked of a questionnaire that was released to members to fill. That questionnaire was released on a Monday, and it was closed on a Friday. And it was actually a 5-page document. And you know, in the University of Nairobi, we are close to 5,000 workers. So assuming each and every member of staff filled that questionnaire, we are talking of 25,000 pages. And imagine it is closed on a Friday on 25th June, and on 9th we have a structure that is being announced by the University of Nairobi Council. Us as KUSU and KUDEA, we were invited for a meeting on Monday by the University of Nairobi Council. And we said, let us go and listen. And for sure we went. What we expected to get details of the reforms. There was nothing. We requested for any document concerning the reforms. There was nothing. They only told us that, you know, university is facing funding issues and blah, blah, blah. It is important that we do reforms. But these reforms, we were not consulted as unions. Even students, they were never consulted.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Let's bring in Eddie. Eddie, what are your issues with this fees especially? Because you are calling for a strike. Is that still on, by the way?
Yeah, the strike is still on today.
So the strike is happening today?
Yeah, it will happen today, and it will happen every subsequent week until our demands are met.
What are your demands?
As my senior colleagues have stated, the whole process has been shrouded in secrecy. There were discussions in Senate. Then we were waiting, because we were waiting for consultation, and no consultation came. The next thing you're hearing is there is a free increment without public participation, which of course is it's enshrined in the Constitution. There has to be public participation. Participation and inclusiveness cannot come after the fact. We cannot start discussing now how we will mend fences and move forward when things are already, the train has left the station. I'm struggling to see the winners in this reform agenda, because it's rare to find a situation where the staff and the students are all, there must be a winner and there must be a loser. In this reform agenda, we are all losing, and that is the reason why we are here. And the fact of the matter is the University of Nairobi is a national entity. As students, we are concerned because this fee increment, if we let it slide now, all eyes, we are here in this studio today because of the University of Nairobi. It's the mother university in the region. If we let this thing slide today, the next thing, it will be a nationwide implementation. This will be a traverse to the student population.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
but this fees doesn't affect you.
Yeah, it does
So
not
why are you
affect
going on
us.
strike?
You know, the administration has been a bit sneaky and strategic in its implication, in its applying the new increment. Existing students who are currently in the university are not to be touched. It is being applied to the incoming lot. And I think this is sneaky because Module 2 students know the pinch of paying school fees, you know. COVID-19 has been harsh. When I joined the university 3 years ago, I joined in a class of about 230 students. Currently, we are about 150 students. We have about 80 students, almost 100 students who have deferred due to the COVID-19 pandemic. People cannot afford to pay these fees. You're increasing the fees. We have to ask questions have to be asked about the sustainability of these things, because currently the fee that we are struggling to pay.
Yeah.
What happens now if you triple the fees, if you double the fees, if you go 100%?
Yeah.
The questions of sustainability have to come into play, because now the people coming in, okay, they can pay the first semester fees, but then what happens second semester, third semester? You'll find people join, but it's a cycle of deferment because it is not possible to pay these fees. They are unrealistic in the long term.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Right.
we are fighting this because we do not represent only the students that are here. We are coming back for masters.
Okay.
This thing touches on the future of higher education in the country. We should be fighting for affordability of this education.
Okay.
All arms of government are hinged upon good quality education. You cannot pass laws in parliament if education is compromised. You cannot lead the country as an executive if the education is compromised.
Okay.
You cannot make good judgments in judiciary if there are no good judges. So education is a discussion we must have, especially on the part of the government.
Okay.
Focus has to be there.
All right. Manyara, what are your thoughts?
Thank you so much, Trevor. First, let me begin by saying that you cannot pickpocket a naked man. The reason as to why I'm saying that is because university students are the most vulnerable stakeholders in this whole thing. When university students are admitted into the university, most of them are placed by KUCCPS. And you realize that they come in the university to pursue different degrees. Now, just like the way our senior colleagues here have said, we have our own structure of student leadership in the country, me representing all the university students in the country. I would like to say that University of Nairobi sets a precedence to other universities, not just today, but even before, way before in the 80s and 70s. University of Nairobi is a mother institution which has produced the likes of Technical University of Kenya, Cooperative, Multimedia, and so forth. Now, this policy is coming at a time when university students are facing very many issues, be it health issues, be it mental illness. There are very many things that are affecting our students in Kenya today, and we feel a pinch as an organization, even being a former SONU chairman.
Yeah.
I feel like our university students will be feeling like we don't represent them very well because we were not consulted and we are likely to oppose.
Yeah.
This is something we have started. I want just to echo what Mwendo has said. This morning we are starting a series of protests. We're even going to do boycotts, class boycotts. We are going to tell those class reps to organize their students. We know very well kuna wale wanafunzi ambao wanakuanga watiaji. They want to stay in school too much without pretending to love education than the rest. We want to tell those classes to stick at home until we are able to achieve this. Personally, as the chairman of KUSO, what we expect is a reduction in school fees, not just even having as it is.
Yeah.
We want a reduction simply because government, what it is doing is cushioning each and every sector whereby we have seen people affected by COVID-19 economic times. So we expect the same to trickle down to education. And remember, Trevor, education is a basic right, just like the way we have food, shelter, and clothing. So we expect the government also to look at education. Education is number 4 in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The same education is in Agenda 2063 of African Union. So the same education is something which the president is supporting through various ways.
Yeah.
Even when you see him focusing on matters, infrastructure, all these are experts who are products of universities. So personally, and also in charge of the other universities, we are going to oppose this draconian move because it is even unconstitutional. Personally, I'm a first-year law student, and I feel the pinch. I already finished my architectural degree, which was Module 2, and I've seen the rise in school fees. It was around 310,000. Right now, it's up to 360 per year. So, Trevor, and you see there are some courses which they have doubled.
Yeah.
And they're using very strategic, do I call a strategy, which is going to dupe our students, even parents.
Yeah.
Because one course and the other course, they have different techniques of indirectly oppressing the student. So it's something which we will oppose in one accord.
Okay. Dr. Bosire, what are the solutions to this? Because we are where we are right now, and I know the students are talking about protests, but there's a reason why this review was done. In fact, the UN VC was giving me reasons. One of them is the government capitation reduced by 2.7 billion in 5 years. He says the revised figures reflect the differentiated unit costs, the DUCs. He also says that fees has not been revised in the last 10 years. He also says that the clients have changing needs, and so does the industry. Are these valid reasons from where you stand?
Trevor, I don't buy the VC's explanation. First and foremost, if government has reduced the capitation, one needs to understand why is the government reducing public funding to a public institution, to a public university. One of the answers to this is that universities have been making money through Module 2 programs.
Yeah.
The Module 2 programs, as I know them today, they're in decline. Students are becoming fewer and fewer. And for that reason, universities, I think, feel the pinch. But with the University of Nairobi, the problem mainly, I would say, is that we have not been strategic in raising resources from other sources. The administration thinks that by raising fees, they will get the money. But raising fees also could have different ramifications. As student leaders have said here, affordability will be an issue, and therefore they will not turn up for those programs. Have you got the money? You would not have got the money. The other thing is, we need to make education affordable and accessible. Equality of access, that the poor will get university education just like the well-off people in our society are getting the education. So the strategy is taking, I think, does not really help. By saying increase fees so that you can get more money. And I see this obsession with the VC as we speak today. That what he thinks is that he gets money in the basket to spend, to pay salaries and to do other things. That is not how universities run. Universities can run on endowments. Universities can also run on support from other institutions, from banks, from, you know, if we are a world-class university, as we say, yeah. Of course we are, but we need to raise resources using different means. We cannot raise resources by depressing already depressed, financially depressed parents and students. Okay. It won't work well. For me, he takes the easy way. The easy way, like heads of, headmasters and principals of schools, that the easy thing is increase fees, you get the money, and you run your institution. Yeah. It's not that way. We need to think. In fact, you should have thought together with stakeholders on what is the best way. For instance, I've seen some courses going up by 139%. I saw that clip on TV this morning. Yeah. I mean, how do you expect people to afford that? Who is going to pay these amounts to you as a vice chancellor? I would say that if the university has to go this way, then it must involve stakeholders. Okay. And it must think about posterity, Trevor. I mean, we are training for the future of this country. We are not training. And again, we want equality of access. We want also inclusivity. We want a poor parent in, for example, Turkana, educating his or her child at the University of Nairobi, getting the quality education for her children. Yeah. But it cannot be an exclusive club. It can't be the elite for elite access alone. Then we make public education, you know, unaffordable, and we cannot be able to access it.
Okay.
So the rich and the elite can access this education in private institutions.
Okay.
But education as an equalizer in any given economy should be affordable.
Yeah.
And therefore, that claim is making, it just looks at the money. For instance, again, within our university, we have an issue that the students are not on campus. Then I see reports that we have saved a lot of money. You have saved a lot of money from electricity because students are not on campus. That's not saving. You have saved out of money when the university is bushy all over the place. It is not neat. The university, you walk into the university, you can see a problem right there. So it's not a question of saving money for him, for the vice chancellor, current vice chancellor and the council. It's just to save money. Even they can starve you to death so that they can claim they have money in the basket to spend on other things.
But Dr. Basire, the argument for that was that at any given point, if the university was to stick to the COVID-19 protocols, you take about 10,000 people at a go. You have more than 50,000 people. What alternative would be there? Because the COVID-19 is also very much present with the people.
I don't understand where the VC, I listened to him.
Yes.
He's saying that our students come from Korogosho, from wherever across the Nairobi, Mukuru, and Kawangware and other places, that they would infect those who live on campus. What is happening now? People are going to jobs. People are working in Nairobi. They come from different places. As long as we take precautions. I thought that was a lame excuse. And it didn't even explain to it didn't convince me that schools can reopen, secondary schools are open, education in the lower, you know, basic education is going on uninterrupted. These children come from different places, from their homes. They go to school, they come back home. Have infection rates gone up? I don't think he has evidence to what he's talking about. I think the real reason why he has not reopened the university is to carry out these knee-jerk reforms, increase fees because students are not on campus to protest. Members of staff are not on campus to protest, that when perhaps this we resume, he should have gotten away with it. But I don't think he's going to get away with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, you know, the issue of posterity, which Dr. Basire is talking about, is one thing that also the VC mentioned. And he said this is a giant institution living beyond its means. And if reforms are not done, it will simply come crumbling down. What options are there then?
Thank you, Trevor. We need to ask ourselves why we are finding ourselves in these problems.
Yes.
It is because of poor governance in the universities. Remember when we had a lot of money from Module 2 students, instead of investing that money in infrastructure development, they in fact created so many positions at the top. There were directors who were at the levels of principals of colleges. And therefore, the top was blotted. And in fact, instead of investing this money, they became like shareholders, and they started to share out that money at the rate of 35% of the income, which was wrong. And therefore, what we are saying is that these universities are blessed with the best minds. I'm sure if we sit down as a university, there is a lot that we can do in terms of income generation, and so many other things.
Yeah.
The university is blessed with the minds, and there is a lot. And in fact, I remember I told the council the same. But you see, the problem is the consultation ends at the Senate. Who is the chair of the Senate? The same vice chancellor. So the Senate will tell the vice chancellor what he would like to hear. And therefore, we are not going anywhere so long as our consultation begins and ends at the Senate. We are not going anywhere.
Okay.
Because ideas are out there.
Yeah.
Students have ideas. Staff have ideas. We only need to sit down as a university community, and we are going to come up with the solutions.
Okay.
Increasing fees is not a solution.
Okay.
Yes.
When do you say that you're starting the protest today, right?
Yes.
And every subsequent Monday?
Yes. Wednesday.
Every subsequent Wednesday?
Yes.
Do you have clearance from the police?
You know, as university students,
Yeah.
and the history we have with the police, we really struggle getting clearance. In fact, we wrote a letter to the regional police commander asking for notifying of the strike and asking for the permission. It was rejected upon arrival. It wasn't even considered. Their words were like, you go to the streets and eat tear gas. So having a force that is not willing to even consider our request at first, then we have no other alternative than go to the streets and negotiate later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but some people say you haven't given a chance for negotiations. It's just the other day that you said you were giving 48 hours. The 48 hours has elapsed, but there's not any sitting.
Like I told you before, negotiations and consultations cannot come after the fact. These consultations should be even before the actual occurrence. The reason for this ultimatum we gave is because of the urgency of this matter. Yeah. Students are joining soon, in about a month's time. We don't have enough time to engage now in boardroom discussions. That would be a very good place to start. I think we've done it previously. They sent a circular out about 2 months ago, threatening to deregister students that had overstayed in the university. We approached them in the boardroom. We gave them our argument. And so far, I'm glad to say there have been no deregistrations. In that instance, it shows clearly we are open to boardroom discussions if the other party is open to discussions. As the seniors here have said, they were not engaged before. And since the VC was here with you, they've not been engaged. That applies also to the student leadership. We were not engaged before and after. In terms of the Senate, as my senior has said, we have student representation in the Senate, but it is an issue of numbers. We are very outnumbered in the Senate. So if we are to speak facts, the students in the Senate are just rubber stamps. Because the Constitution stipulates that there must be students represented in the Senate. That is the role we do. But in terms of decision making, we are mostly overlooked. Yeah. And that is something we oppose strongly. Yeah. And like you said, and like the VC said here in the previous interview on Monday, I think, yeah, the UN has the brightest minds. We pick the best minds in this country. Let it be known that is the shining light for UN, the brightest minds. We do not want to go a route where now we pick the richest minds. Okay. Yeah, that is not a direction we will allow.
All right. Manyara, you are also mentioning that you are supporting this protest by the University of Nairobi students. Yes. But then how will you make sure that there's not any collateral damage? Because we've seen anytime the students go to the streets, some people who have nothing to do with the fee increment, their vehicles are stoned and drama just ensues. How then will you ensure there's not any collateral damage?
I believe the spirit of the new dispensation, that is UNSA, is more peaceful. And you realize that when there are these kind of protests, which we carry out peaceful demonstrations, it is the police that they provoke students to do such kind of activities. The reason as to why I'm saying this is because the rights to picketing, rights to demonstrate, air out your views is enshrined in, I think, Article 27 of the Constitution, 37 of the Constitution, which means, Trevor, if, for instance, UNSA leaders, we being the national body, we cannot, of course, infiltrate in issues to do with the University of Nairobi, but the immediate student leaders who have been elected by students in the University of Nairobi, if they have notified the regional command of police to notify them of this kind of demonstration, why then should they not be given a consent? Why should they not be provided with security? The institution itself, it has got a director of security services. That department should be there to provide security for the students, yeah, from any harm from outsiders. The University of Nairobi has vested interests, even externally. So generally, as a school, so we are supporting by all means possible. We are just waiting. Yeah. Trevor, I'll just take you back and just give you a few facts. In Kenya, we have 36 private universities. We have 5 public universities. That's a total of 71. Now, University of Nairobi sets a precedence. It's just like potassium permanganate. If, for instance, they adopt a policy,
Yeah.
it will infiltrate all the other institutions automatically. They are just waiting like this, they are watching to see what the University of Nairobi will do. If it adopts this policy, which of course has consulted no one,
Yeah.
even us as the KUSO, the Kenya University Students Organization, we have not been consulted by this particular institution. Secondly, Trevor, the institution has not consulted the likes of Commission of University Education, Q.
Yeah.
They have not consulted Minister of Education, Magoa. They have not consulted Treasury. If it was a matter of funds, the University of Nairobi, the CEO, who is the Vice Chancellor, should negotiate with the Treasury to ensure that there are more funds allocated to this institution. Remember, initially before we had these very many universities, the universities getting a share, it was just like one big pizza.
Yeah.
So the University of Nairobi would get the bigger portion, and then it would distribute to its subsidiary colleges, which were at that time were the likes of Multimedia, Technical University, and so forth. They would get larger, they would get the largest allocation,
Yeah.
and they would distribute to these institutions. Now, currently, what the institution is doing, they want to impose this kind of draconian policies to stakeholders, because universities, university students, I believe they are the greatest stakeholder. A university cannot run without students. That's why we were saying with Mwendwa, if for instance students go to the streets, or even they boycott classes, nothing will continue.
Okay.
The same, you have listened to even the lecturers say they have not been consulted. Now, not only these bodies from top who have not been consulted,
Yeah.
Parliamentary Committee on Education, they have not been consulted. They are saying these policies, they are some things which should never happen, should never see the light of the day.
Okay.
So currently we are seeing even the Vice Chancellor's caucus,
Yeah.
specifically, all these Vice Chancellors. University of Nairobi has a way of bulldozing, especially for the last, I think, 5 years. Bulldozing. Even the University of Nairobi Students Association was
Yeah.
brought to replace SONU through imposing. There was not something which was to feature. That's why you see nowadays, you cannot even elect students directly, like the way we elect MPs, senators,
Yeah.
because of the Universities Amendment Act 2016. This was a way to curtail, or rather to prevent university students to have a common voice.
Yeah.
Is to have just a few students representing others
Yeah.
who have no voice to air out their issues.
Okay.
Some institutions have
Yeah.
even gone to an extent of imposing projects. University student leaders, they are not there representing students, they are there to represent the administration.
Okay.
So that is where the rain is beating us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Waiter, you had mentioned that this institution was top heavy. One of the reforms suggested is that they abolished the DVC Finance, DVC HR, DVC Student Affairs, DVC Academic Affairs, DVC Research and Innovation, and replaced that with 2 positions, Associate VC. What problem do you have with that? Because doesn't that then eliminate the top heavy that you're talking about?
Well, Trevor, I want to say that as unions and as staff, we are not opposed to reforms. We are only saying that we be consulted, we be part of these reforms. And in any case,
Yeah.
before these Module 2 programs, we used to have 2 DVCs. We only used to have academic, administration, and finance. They used to be 2. But when we started to get a lot of money from Module 2 students, we felt like we needed also to bring our colleagues on board. It became a heaty season.
Yeah.
And that is how these positions were created from 2 to 5. And who were actually appointed? Their colleagues.
Okay.
And I can tell you they also brought about other positions which were called directors, like Odell Campus,
Yeah.
where the director was at the level of a college principal. The idea was just to enjoy because there was a lot of money. And they did not invest in infrastructural development.
Yeah.
You go to the laboratories, they are in a poor state. You go to the lecture halls, you cannot believe you are in a university. Yet we had money to do all these things. But now they are saying, in fact, even getting petty cash in a department is a problem. Is a problem. Working in the universities is a big, big problem. And I wish you interviewed the staff. They will tell you, you go to work, you are supposed to go to class, you are not facilitated, you have really nothing. So sometimes you have to spend your little money to make that class run.
Okay.
Yes.
That's how bad it is, that
That
you
is how
use
bad
your own
it
resources.
is. Yes.
Okay. So then you're saying that these reforms, there's no problem with them, it's just that you've not been consulted.
Of course, we are saying we haven't been consulted. Reduce those positions at the top.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't have a problem. Unions have been telling management, we have a bloated management,
Okay.
right? But you see, we also need to ask ourselves, when these positions are abolished, what is going to happen to our staff? Though we got an assurance, it is never written anywhere that there will be no staff loss, job losses. It is not written. It is all verbal.
Yeah.
We met the council. We told them to commit themselves in writing. They haven't.
Okay.
Yes.
Dr. Busire, this structure that we have here, the abolishment of the DVC Finance, DVC HR, DVC Student Affairs, also principals and deputy principals were also abolished. Now we have executive and associate deans. All the 6 colleges, faculties were reduced from 35 to 11. Are these okay?
I would say this, Trevor.
Yeah.
Perhaps I would echo what my colleague has said,
Yeah.
but I would add that we need to examine the kind of structure that we are getting out of these reforms. And as a political scientist, I would tell you that we are centralizing. These reforms are centralizing authority around one office. The only office that was retained intact was the VC's office. The rest of the offices down to the bottom are supposed to be now subservient to the VC. We have had before, we have been electing deans. Deans are academic heads of faculties. So members of staff, teaching staff, will elect a dean so that the dean heads the academic programs in that particular faculty. Now, he has come up with what he's calling executive deans, where he's going to appoint deans and taking away the rights of lecturers to elect their leader, who is an academic, part of us, who is going to head the faculty. Now, he's going to elect to appoint. Remember that principals and DVCs are the legal positions that have existed. They have not changed the law to disband them or to abolish them. Now he removes them. I don't know where the VC gets the power to dissolve a legally backed office within an organization. And now, after removing that, we could say, okay, remove the principals, then what do you replace that position with? Then he says, we are again introducing associate deans that will be appointed, as well as deans who are appointed. Chairman will be appointed. And everyone else down the ladder will be appointed. So we are looking at a very strong iron triangle that has been created by the VC, by this new system. Yeah. And that's why we reject it, because it doesn't help. For instance, the VC has to touch a button today as we speak, himself as a person, to make payments done. I heard him talk about that on television in your program. And he was saying that, yes, he has to do that, but everything is electronic. We have had issues. Our colleagues who have been sick out of the country, yeah, it has become very difficult for them to get the bill settled. You have to look for the VC personally to be able to talk to the VC. It is very difficult that 2 people, only the financial officer and the VC, are managing the finances. Is that transparency and accountability? The bureaucracy has been increased. I would say that without fear of any contradiction. It become more bureaucratic. So for me to do anything, in the past, we have deans, more deans than we have now, so I can approach the dean to solve an academic issue. Yeah. But now I have to go to the dean, one dean who is in charge of the whole college, yeah, of health sciences, for instance, with over 350 members of staff reporting to a single individual. How do you handle? Okay. It's going to be so bureaucratic. I've seen another thing that I would give as an example here, Trevor. He has centralized even issues to do with medical reimbursements. Some colleges feel like, oh, it's okay, let everyone get from the same pool, but he has not made any effort either to increase staff working in that center where now everything is being sent throughout the university. He has not even bought scanners for scanning documents. Now they have to scan to send them to the system. Yeah. I've seen our staff using their own phones with their own airtime or bundles to scan our documents and then send them to the center for processing. It is unfortunate that centralization is going to clog up the university. This is where we were in the 1980s, early 1990s. Yeah. I want to say also, Trevor, this, that now the top-down system in a devolving world is the preferred model for administration of the University of Nairobi. Yeah. It's not right. Honestly, it's not right. A devolution is important. It sets people free. It enhances initiative and creativity. Yeah. Now putting everything together, you wait for instruction for one individual, then it becomes difficult. It stifles even academic freedom within the university. Okay. And we are opposed to it because now, at the moment, we want to elect deans. If they involved us from the very beginning, this could not have been an issue, but now it's an issue. Okay. We must elect our deans. Okay. We are not going to allow that to happen. They have abolished certain positions at the top, but they have retained others. For instance, there is a director of advancement. Yeah. There's someone who sits there as a director of advancement. There is another one called corporate affairs. Yeah. They earn more or less the same amount. In fact, they earn more than full professors. And these are people we don't know what qualifications they have. Someone earning, and I will not disclose who, 530,000 per month. What does he do? And those are the people, Trevor, I could say, are actually on the list of those who designed these reforms. The reforms committee, I will say this on air for Kenyans to know, was chaired by Kiama himself. He was chairing that reform committee. In the membership of that committee is the DVC, academic affairs. Then there is a principal, acting principal, another acting principal. All those I'm mentioning are just on the list. Yeah. Together now with this man, one of them, the director of a university advancement. People are supposed to source money for resources for the university, and they do nothing, but they are there to earn money, as my colleague was saying. They're just privileging money from the university. Okay. Why not abolish? If I was to abolish, those are the first officers I would abolish, because they don't contribute anything to the university, but they consume resources. Okay. They brought in an academic member of staff after there was a protest in Senate, and they included only one academic member of staff. The rest are administrators and acting principals, everyone acting. Now, when, Trevor, you have everyone acting, sitting, and you are the chair, and the VC and the chair of that committee, didn't he drive this thing on his own? Okay. Because they are beholden to him. I mean, this is what has led us to where we are. Okay. If there are reforms, we should have people well versed with the technical aspects of reforms. Reforms are not just something that you walk into the market without any knowledge about it. You need experts to do the reform, to make the proposals, then you send them to the people, we participate and agree this is the way to go as an institution. Okay. Thank you. I have to take a quick break here on Daybreak. When you come back, I see a lot of your feedback. We'll put some of them up, and then we'll also discuss the strike that the university students say is on, beginning today and subsequent Wednesdays. That right after the break.